Caleb Roar heard the scream before he saw her. It tore through the Kansas heat like a blade, sharp enough to make his horse shy and snort. Caleb pulled the reins hard and leaned forward in the saddle, scanning the open prairie. When he crested the low ridge outside Dodge City, the land fell away into a shallow cottonwood grove, green and out of place against the dry grass. That was where he saw her. A young woman hung upside down from a thick limb, swaying slightly in the still air. Her ankles were bound tight with rope, wrists tied behind her back. Her dress had slipped down to her waist, dust clinging to her white underthings, her hair hanging loose and wild toward the earth. She was screaming, not words, just sound, at the sky as if it could feel shame for what was happening beneath it. Caleb hauled his horse to a stop so fast the animal stamped in protest. For 2 full heartbeats, he didn't move. He hadn't seen a woman like that, exposed, vulnerable. Since the day they lowered his wife into the ground 8 summers ago. The sight hit him like a blow. He felt his eyes drop before he could stop them. The girl noticed. "Don't look down there," she snapped, voice breaking even as fury carried it. "That's off limits." Shame burned across her face hotter than the sun. Caleb blinked hard and dragged his gaze back up to her eyes. She was young, maybe 22. Freckled. Sunburned. Furious in the way only someone deeply humiliated can be. Furious not at him, exactly, but at the world for making this moment real. "I'm sorry," Caleb said quietly. He swung down from the saddle, boots thudding into dry grass, and pulled his knife free. The rope was rough cowboy work, knotted tight, meant to hurt. He cut carefully, one strand at a time. When the knot gave way, he didn't step back. He caught her around the hips, steady as a fence post, and lowered her slowly to the ground. She landed shaky, snatched her skirt, and yanked it down like cloth could erase memory. Her hands trembled as she smoothed it over herself. Behind her, the grass was torn and trampled. Deep hoof prints circled the grove. Someone had dragged her here. Played with her. Taken their time. A shadow shifted among the trees. A man stepped out wearing a deputy's star that flashed too bright in the sun. Silas Crow smiled like he owned the air she breathed. "She's under arrest," he said, holding up a folded paper. "By order of Dodge City." The girl flinched. "Maggie," Silas added, savoring her name. Caleb took one step closer and read the warrant from where he stood. The ink was smeared. The date wrong. The signature looked like a drunk man's scratch. His stomach turned. Maggie stood beside him, trembling now. Caleb felt it, that fine shaking that never lies. He also felt something darker rising in him, a slow, heavy anger at how easily a badge could become a weapon. Silas leaned in, lowering his voice. "You saw too much, rancher," he whispered. "Now you either hand her over, or you ride back to your lonely house and keep your mouth shut." Caleb looked at Maggie. Her eyes were wet, but they weren't begging. They were daring him. He could take her to town. Find the real sheriff. Try to win by law. Or he could settle it here, where no one would see what he chose to become. The prairie went quiet, that unnatural stillness before trouble when even the wind seems to listen. Caleb glanced at the paper again, slow and deliberate, like an old man reading a fence line. "Funny thing," he said calmly. "I've ridden this county 20 years, and I've never seen a lawful arrest start with a girl tied upside down." Silas smiled wider. "It's called resisting." She ran. "I tripped," Maggie said, half laughing, half furious. "He tied me up to teach me a lesson." Silas's eyes cut to her, sharp as glass. "Careful, girl." Something twisted in Caleb's chest, not rage yet. Something heavier. The realization that he'd spent too long minding his own business. Riding past trouble instead of through it. Silas stepped closer. Caleb could smell sweat and cheap tobacco. "You can still walk away," Silas said softly. Caleb chuckled under his breath. "Ma'am," he said to Maggie, "you always get arrested like this." She snorted despite herself. "Only on unlucky days." Silas scowled. "Enough." He reached for her arm. Caleb moved. He stepped between them, one hand out, not striking, just stopping. "Don't," Caleb said. The word carried weight. "You put hands on an officer," Silas said tightly. "Maybe," Caleb replied. "Or maybe it's the last mistake you make." Silas's smile vanished. His hand slid toward his gun. "You reach for iron," Caleb warned quietly, "and someone gets buried out here." "That's a threat." "It's a prediction." Silas sidestepped, trying to line up on Caleb's hip. Caleb mirrored him, a gate that wouldn't open. Then Silas dropped the warrant. As Caleb's eyes dipped for a split second, Silas lunged, slamming his shoulder into Caleb's chest. Dust jumped. Caleb skidded back a step. Then old ranch strength took over. Caleb planted his heels and shoved hard. Silas lost balance, his hat flying off. Maggie kicked it away without thinking. It rolled into weeds. Silas saw red. "You little witch," he snapped, swinging toward her. Caleb caught his wrist midair. Silas's other hand dove for his gun. That was the real move. Caleb twisted the wrist sharp and fast. Silas grunted, fingers opening. The gun stayed holstered, but the message was clear. Silas pulled back, eyes wide now. "You just put hands on the law," Silas hissed. "And you just proved you aren't it," Maggie shot back. Caleb realized then Silas wasn't alone. A rifle clicked behind the cottonwoods. Silas lifted his chin, smug. "Easy now." A lean man stepped out, rifle resting on his shoulder. "Just keeping things fair." "That's my witness," Silas said. Caleb leaned his head just enough to whisper to Maggie. "When I say move, you run. I'm not leaving you." Silas cleared his throat. "Hands behind your back, rancher." Caleb stepped forward instead. The rifleman slipped his finger inside the trigger guard. Maggie screamed, not fear, warning. The shot cracked. Caleb lunged, dragging Maggie down. Wood splintered. Birds exploded skyward. Caleb came up on one knee, pistol already in his hand. One shot. The rifleman screamed, dropping the rifle, clutching his hand, and vanished into the brush. Hoofs thundered in the distance. Caleb tackled Silas, drove him into the dirt, ripped the badge free, crushed it in his fist, and tossed it into the weeds. "Tell the truth," Caleb growled. "Or I will." They rode hard for Dodge City, dust chasing them like a living thing. Maggie clung to him, shaking. "What if they catch us? Then they don't take you." At the edge of town, eyes followed them. Whispers started. Caleb shifted, blocking Maggie from stairs. "Keep your chin up," he murmured. "You didn't do wrong. Do you think they'll believe us?" "I don't know," he said. "But I know what happens when good people stay quiet." He'd been quiet for 8 summers. Now he was done. They rode into Dodge City to face whatever waited, not fearless, but finished with being pushed. And that made all the difference.